Okay, it doesn't always.
Hey guys, welcome to another free workshop that we are running by RWR, that's Rainforest Writing Retreat. And today's workshop is on how to edit your picture book. Robin has already run a workshop for us on how to write a draft for a manuscript for a picture book. So if you missed that, if you check out Rainforest Writing Retreat's YouTube channel, you'll be able to catch up on that. There's some good exercises in there to get you started. But today we've got Robin here and I wanted to introduce her. Robin has written many picture books and published many picture books. And one of everybody's favorite is Brave Denny, which is quite a progressive book about a young boy in a domestic violence situation. And it's quite heartwarming. So I definitely recommend you check out, if you want to write picture books, check out books like Brave Denny, because it shows you where you can take this. So Robin, let us know a little bit about what you're doing today.
Well, right now I'm just trying to calm down after around this morning. Today we're going to edit manuscripts. Who was at the last session? Anyone? Yeah. Well, we're going to go through the manuscripts that were written, and I would imagine that some people found that quite confronting, trying to write a picture book manuscript, because it's so different to the other style of writing. And hopefully some of you have brought some of your manuscripts along. But first of all, before we go into that, and I want to share, and I want you to get as much as you can out of this so that you can go away and you can continue to edit and continue to know what to look for and be your own best critic, if you like. I mean, nobody's ever satisfied. I'm sure anyone who's been published would know you're never satisfied, but there comes a point where you have to say that's enough. It's going to have to do. There are a few markers that we have to follow if you're going to get the best out of your manuscript. So who has brought a manuscript along today? Oh, super, fabulous. So we need to pace this pretty fast. So we'll start with the slides, because I need to go backtracking a bit just to sort of say that we all have a head around what
happened in the last.
I think you're starting from the back. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I've just got to click on the
close your eyes, everybody.
It's okay.
You're getting a preview.
There we go.
So
I love that.
That's a picture from Grandpa's Gold.
No.
All right, so here we go. That's just the cover. So the next one is, what is it anyway? Well, it's the most wonderful tool you can have to make the idea you have and the story that you've written better, so that you can make it shine. And sometimes that's really quite confronting, because you write something and you think, oh, that's fabulous, and your family's all told you it's wonderful, and because they always will, and unless they're in the game, and you need to have other people edit it for you, but starting with yourself. So it can shake your self-confidence when somebody gives you an edit that you're not particularly impressed with, and that's happened to me a few times, and I've weathered that storm and come out of it. And it makes you feel a little bit, your self-esteem a little bit shaken, but fortunately it's a temporary condition. And the more you do it, and the more you don't give up, and the more you just keep trying to make things look, to get your story there, because everyone will have a story they want to tell, and it will become quite personal. And it's just keeping going, just keeping going. So the next thing is, here's my advice. Ding. Have to be open-minded when somebody says something. You have to just take it on board. You might say, I don't like that. That's not what that person didn't get it. You will get people saying things that makes you bristle, and you think, they don't understand what I'm trying to say. However, be open-minded about all that. Just put it aside. But if 6 people say that, okay, maybe I should be looking at this. maybe it does need some reworking. Read it aloud, because your story, when you read it aloud, it sounds so different. And as Christine's going to do later, going to read her story aloud for you, and show it to a friend, show it to another writer, show it to a writers group. So also, if you can, do some professional writing courses on picture books, because that was my start. I did the professional children's writing course with the College of Journalism in Sydney, and I had a wonderful mentor, and that's how I got my start. Enough so that I went to Queensland Writers Centre, did courses there, met people, formed groups, and we started to critique each other's work. So still learning. You never stop learning. So all right. So when you actually are when you start to edit, every sentence you write, you have to be able to see a picture in your head that goes with it. If you can't, then unless it's truly important, consider cutting that out. And if you'll notice, if you're very astute, you'll notice that I've got a mistake in there. Imagine the illustrations and cut the words that can't be shown. That should be can be shown in the illustration. Sorry. Sometimes, I'm still editing. So that's just a bit of my own advice. Stay open-minded. You will get. I wrote a book called Sylvia's Itch, and one bit of feedback I got for that was, oh, those names are too old-fashioned. And I was really annoyed at that because I'd gone to a lot of trouble to choose those names, and one actually meant Spirit of the Woodlands. So I realized later that wasn't necessarily good critiquing, it was opinion. It's a matter of separating the two as well. All right. And I have stood my ground sometimes, and other times I've changed heaps. I've even changed characters from people to ducks in one book because the illustrator drew ducks better than she drew people. But it fitted. So just bear that in mind. You will get things you like and things you don't like. You'll get things that you've never thought of before. Take it all on board, mix it all around, and see if it works. Even try it out. You don't have to throw away. You don't have to. And it's your story. But remember, there are other viewpoints that are going to come along that might be very useful. Okay, so that's one. Now, if you've got some beautiful bits in your story that a description that can be shown in yellows, you get rid of that. And they say kill your darlings. You've probably heard that. But if it's not moving the story along, because you've got a very, very tight framework of approximately 500 words to tell your story, resolve your plot and make everybody happy so that a child who's reading in bed goes to bed going, that was wonderful. I love that. Read that again. So if it's not moving the story forward, a child will get bored. And just, even if you love it to bits, just put it aside for another day. So be discerning. I've said that again. And just keep editing, editing, editing. So I don't know. Children at school have asked me how many times I've edited my stories because they hate editing. Once they've written something, this is when I was still teaching, they'd written it, that was their story, and that was it. So I taught grade one year one how to edit, and they can do it, so we can do it. So it's just a matter of accepting the fact that other people, that perhaps it can be better than it already is. This is just a little quote from Brave Danny. That picture of the giraffe, that's rough. So edit your own work. If you can, join up with someone else and edit theirs too. And I'll show you some techniques for doing that, okay? That's all right. So I think I'll stop giving you advice now, and we'll move on to the method that I learned through Queensland Writers Centre called the Milford method. And it's really as though you're writing a report. So it's more essay type report. But the first thing you say is, what was the story about? Now that sounds silly, probably, because it's pretty obvious I know what my story's about. But just because you know what your story's about may not necessarily transfer to the reader. So just write a one-sentence story about what's the story about, so that it's clear that the reader understands what's going to be about. And if I were writing something about one of my own books, I would probably say, oh, this story about a little boy who did blah, blah, blah. It's a story of, and might even put the little subplot in there if it's a story about problem solving or family or something like that. So if you can discern it already, if you got the message. If you didn't get the message, then perhaps that goes back to the writer, and they think, well, maybe I have to beef that up somewhere. That's the first part. So the second part is what worked. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, now, really important. We must stay positive as much as we can. And we have to be careful we don't tread on somebody's baby, because everybody has something good in their story. And you will always find something good if you go looking for something good to say. And people need that, because especially if you're a beginner picture book writer, you need to know that you're going in the right direction just as much as you need to know what you're not doing correctly. I strongly believe in that. So this part of the process is saying, hang on, we've missed number 2.
Oh, sorry. Yep, going back. Sorry, I thought you were moving on.
I know I'm rambling. No, I just want to say, what did you like, and why you liked it. You could make a comment on a character, you can make a comment on the setting, you can make a comment on the plot or the problem that's going on, or the way it made you feel, anything. It could be the ending. 1 or 2, 3, 4, as many as you can. So, all right, number 3. Now we get on to where you have to sort of toughen up a bit. And what could use some more work? Did you notice I didn't say what didn't work? What could use some more work? So we're still trying to stay a little bit positive. All right, what slowed the story down? And if something slows it down, you'll know that the minute you read it to a child, because they'll start to squirm and squiggle and lose focus, concentration. And little children like this, they don't have a very long attention span. So if it's slow, you probably have to get rid of it, or you've rambled on too long, just like I'm doing now, which is just who I am. And what was missing? Was there something that I should have put in there, or I could have put in there that I didn't put in there, or you, when you're editing rather? So comment on any aspect of the story. If you can't really see that character in your head, then say that. You say, I really didn't get a real connection with the character. And that's okay to say that. And if I'm a bit hazy about the problem, and see, a problem doesn't have to be an antagonist either. It can be a thing, or usually when you're doing your character outline, you will identify in your head what a character's likes and dislikes are, and what they want, because what they want will probably become your problem they have to solve and overcome. And it's not a thing like, I want to go to Disneyland, but I want, like in Brave Danny, I want my dad to be more like my friend's dad. I want not to be frightened. So they've got to be deep and meaningful subplots that have to be there, that you don't actually say, that become evident through the story. Also, use of literary devices. We talked about those last time, and that's just the use of clever ways to use repetition and rhythm and rhyme and onomatopoeia and all sorts of different things. I'm happy to send anyone who doesn't have my notes from last time. And was the underlying message evident? Might be just friendship or family, but there has to be something, and there will be. You can start writing a story, and none of those things are kind of in the forefront of your head, But as you start writing it, it will become evident. And you can use the senses to do this and a whole pile of things. And there's plenty of literature around to tell you how to do that. But they follow a structure. The rule of 3 is fabulous. I love that. I love the use of the senses. But again, this is all 500 words. So it's got to be short and sharp and tight. Tight being the next. So the next one, 4, what to do next. Make suggestions based on your edit that you think might help the writer. But remember, it's the writer's story. So I've had people say to me, oh, do this, do that, change this, change that. And honestly, the first few times I thought, oh, that must be right. So I do exactly what they told me to do. And then later on, I think, that's not what I was trying to say, because all of those suggestions might interfere with the plot or with the problem you're trying to solve. And one comes to mind really strongly. But other times, just got to remember that you can suggest, but you can't tell. You have to remember it's their story. That is a really good way of doing it. And if you're making any notes, do it to yourself and say, all right, this is what my story is about. This is what I'm doing well, I think. This is what I maybe could do better. I haven't got this covered. And if you have my notes from last time there, you'll see those literary devices, or some of them, but they're all over the net. You can find them anywhere. And if you're doing somebody else's suggestions, stay positive. And that's probably, so that's the Milford method. And I would suggest as a beginning, if you're a beginning editor, person editing someone's work, follow that. It's easy and it helps you stay on track, helps you stay positive. That's one way to do it. Now, we're getting started, but we're going to, before we get started, I'm going to get Chris to read her story. Are you there, Chris? Can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yay.
I was
So
just
Chris-
chucking your email address up for everybody. If they want to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they can email you for the notes. We're having a little side conversation in the chat room.
Yeah, that's right. That's what chatting is. So we made a few last minute changes. We edited some last minute changes. So anyway, we decided, well, Chris was kind enough to send this along to me. I might be jumping around a little bit too soon.
No, that's okay.
That's all right.
Just talking about how.
Yes. So
I think you did. So you do have on the screen here that this might be a nice time if anyone has questions so far.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, all right. Let's do this one first. It's about you, and I want you to go away from today feeling as though you know more than you did when you started, and that you have some tools and some ways that you can help yourself, and that you can see yourself as a picture book writer, because it's a wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful place to be. And hopefully you have your picture book drafts with you and you're happy to share and get feedback. So if we have time, I think we will do that. And if you have any questions to ask, so you may have written your draft and think, oh, I'm not really sure about this part, or the ending's not satisfying me. And did he or she actually get what they wanted? So was the problem solved, in other words? And so anything, if you want to know anything, you can write it in the chat box. Did you get stuck at any point? And what was it that stuck you? And did you resolve it, or didn't you resolve it? And we'll go back to this later on, I think, and when it's your turn after we've done Chris's, and we can help each other perhaps resolve any of that stuff. Okay. So what Chris is going to do, she's going to read it, and I'm going to show you another way of editing, which is more of a line edit. And I've just, because I know Chris, I know I can be fairly brutal with her, if you like, but in a nice way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to do the whole manuscript. You can hear the whole story because you probably go, oh, if we stop in the middle. But I will only edit part of it. But it will show you the line editing, which you can also do. You want to know how to do line edits? Do you using? You'll see
quick changes in Microsoft Word.
I'm just stop sharing so I can bring up the document so people can see the manuscript as you read it out.
Any questions while we're waiting?
I'm going to read it in its glory. So I've already started doing some edits on this, but I'm going to do it how it originally was. So you guys can pick out the areas that I need to work on. I need to change or take out, or what do you think? I suppose.
And thanks, Christine, for being really brave.
Just read it with all of it. And this is good because this demonstrates, and even to Chris, reading it out loud is one of the strategies for your story. It sounds different, and you'll pick up errors straight away. And anyway, come on, off you go.
Off you go. So where would you like me to finish? Around about page 11, 12?
Finish the story at 1:20.
Yeah, just read the whole story.
Okay, all right. Tiny Aquila was a mergirl the size of your index finger. Her clan lived in a billabong in outback Australia where burrowing frogs and snake-necked turtles lived. Lilies dotted the surface of the water of her water home, a perfect place to lounge and talk to other mer. But Aquila was lonely. Others teased her about her dull, listless tail, while theirs were the colour of rainbows. She wished every night that one day she would be just like them, frolicking in and out of the lily stems and mangrove roots, glistening in the sun, playing tiggy. She had tried everything. An ancient mer witch said, "Rub petals of lily flowers onto your scales every night for a week," but it did not help. An elder mer said the sediment in the deep, dark place would work, but all that did was make her tail look dirty. Aquila was not the type to give up. She gathered all nature's colours and ground them into pastes. The rust red ochre, purple, yellow, white from ochre clays, and black from charcoal. She used a kookaburra's feather to paint her special design. She drew dots, lines, squiggles on her tail. It was magnificent, and everyone came to see. Aquila was so proud and slipped from the lily pad into the water. Gulping pops of laughter rang into the air. It can't be me. My tail is amazing, Aquila thought. But looking down, she saw the painted colours had washed from her tail like coloured streamers. Aquila fled from the laughter and nasty remarks. A kingfisher swooped down and scooped her up. "Let me go," Aquila said. "I'm not your lunch." Her wet hair slapped at the bird's face and it dropped her. Down, down, down into the murky waters below she dropped, into a part of the billabong no mer had ever visited. She was almost invisible with her dull khaki-coloured tail, but knew she had to hide, and quickly. Backing into a hole in the side of the billabong bank, she heard, "Get out of my burrow," said an old burrowing frog. Scared, she looked around for somewhere else to hide. A hungry silver barramundi darted towards her, snapping its razor-sharp teeth. She plunged deep into the forest of seagrass and hid safe in a mollusk shell. She felt something hard beneath her. Looking, she found the most splendid pearl. "What are you doing so far from Merkin?" said Old Man Platypus. This, she swished her tail, her dull tail. It seemed to be perfectly fine swimming. It seems to be a perfectly fine swimming tail to me, said the platypus, but Aquila sobbed. You are more than the colour of your tail," he said. "You have found the spirit pearl. Rub it all over your tail and wait." Aquila rubbed, and she rubbed, and she rubbed, but nothing happened. She finally accepted her tail would never change. She did not care who saw her and swam home. Finally, she reached her favourite lily pad and pulled herself up. Mer gathered around her in awe. Aquila's tail had transformed with the same luminescence as the pearl. But that was not all. The painting she'd drawn before had shone through, and she remembered what Old Man Platypus had said and swam away. As he swam away, "You're much more than how you look. It's how you feel inside and what you do that makes you who you are." And Aquila was finally and Aquila finally understood. Thank you.
There you go.
Oh.
Draws you in. Now we'll put up, this edit I did, this line edit I did for Chris, which I did the whole manuscript. I did it very quickly and I've missed some bits, and this is edit 1.
Sorry.
And you never ever only do one edit. You just keep going and going until it's what you think, well, I don't think I can do anymore. Are you going to pop the
Yep.
edit?
I've also got to say that manuscript as it sits there, I worked on that so much and edited it and edited it and edited it and read it out and read it to my family. And like Robin said, they all said, that's brilliant. You can publish it right now. And now that I look at it and now that I've read it to you guys, I go, oh my God, there's so much to change. So it's so true. You need your writing buddies to help you out and say, you know what, that's an illustration, or you didn't pause there, or you did pause there, and your grammar and everything counts, right? So
All right. So we have
Robin.
Here we go.
Okay. So I'm actually probably going to read off the one I have in front of me. You can see where they are on the screen, the highlighted bits, the comments are on the side. So where are we? Okay.
Oh, yeah, right at the beginning.
Can you just drop it a bit? Okay. So in the beginning, I said this first one here. I'm pointing the screen so you can see what I'm doing. It's about your index finger. I said, can you find something more interesting to compare her size with something in her surroundings?
Can I just interject there for a second? The story, just so you guys get a context, what I was trying to do was write a fractured fairy tale on Thumbelina. So she's supposed to be the size of a prawn or something like that.
I would say prawn. I love the size of a prawn.
Prawn?
Because in my head, she looks a bit like a prawn.
Prawn, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get that, Chris.
Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
Okay. All right. So her clan lived in a billabong. We're borrowing.
Sorry, can I just, do you get prawns in billabongs?
Yes. All of these things that are in this story, I've researched, and they're all in billabongs. Yeah.
Yep.
No, you're right. Yep.
That's
so
another.
what a billabong is, just so you understand that too, guys, is it's a river that's usually got a bend in it, and then the river redirects itself to go straighter or go in a different direction, and it leaves a pocket of water, which is called a billabong. And that's how we get billabongs in Australia. Well, anywhere, I suppose.
Yeah, you get them all over the place like that, where the bend has changed.
Correct, yeah. The bend has changed, it's just left.
Did you change it to prawn?
Yes, I changed it to prawn.
Okay, fine. And this is all where the learning is coming from too, without actually thrusting it down people's throats. And then I said, what did I say? Billabong, or I've just said what a billabong is, as though Chris didn't know. Maybe you can build in. I said that the clan was stranded there in a big flood because people might understand, that may give people an understanding of how come their clan had ended up there. But again, it's a suggestion, and it's something that popped in my head as I was reading this. So it's in Chris's court now, whether she likes that suggestion or comment or not, and she can do with it as she wishes. So the next one is I've written, but Aquila was lonely. Yeah, can you see that bit?
Mm-hmm.
The illustrator will just love that. And I also, okay, so that's a good one. The next one, others teased her about her listless tale. I'm having trouble just following my own work here. A perfect scene. So perfect scene. Which one's that?
That was the lonely.
That's the lonely one. Yeah.
I'm clicking on them as you say them, so your comments are popping up.
Yeah. Instead of saying she was lonely, you can show that in the illustrations by having everyone playing over there and she's sitting there really sadly by herself. Now, that's really obvious that she's lonely. And I suggested, I think, Chris, that you said sad or something, because, but you don't need to say that. This is what a picture book's all about, is having this harmony with the illustration, like music and the words to a song. They go and they carry each other along. And so, all right, comment 5. We've done that one.
Did you decide that on the third line we were going to make that an illustration note? Lily's dotted the surface of the water home of her water home. Yep. Sorry, Jerry interrupted me.
Yes, sorry, Lily's dotted the surface. So can you imagine that in your head? Can you imagine that sense? Lily's dotted the surface of the water home. So if you've got lilies all over the place, and I can imagine my daughter's, that she has a bit of a lake. It's not a billabong, it's floodwater stuff, and it's dotted with lilies. So if I drew a picture of that, as soon as I think of that, I think of that.
But we're going to take it out and make it an illustration note. So
you can make it you can take all you have to do is have the illustrators say, all right, the water's covered in lilies, and have all these myrrh lying around. So it's not taking the story forward in a sense. It's only describing the scene. So you don't need to describe the scene. That's what the illustrations are for.
And it also takes our word count down, correct?
Sure.
Taking that out.
You might want to put something else in there that perhaps helps the story along. Now, then if I miss something, you can read it, can't you?
Maybe listless. You were looking at vocab choices.
Listless. Yep.
Yeah. So anything that like this other mer girls, I might have said change it to that. That means change that. And up there it's just lonely. And all right. And then I picked up here that she had this listless tail. And I said, well, listless actually means limp. So was her tail. So you don't see it yourself, you're too close. Other people see it. And so there are plenty of other good words to use other than listless.
I came up with either boring or colourless or ho-hum, but probably boring. Either that or just take it out. Just leave it as dull tail.
Boring, because I don't know what a boring tail is actually. And that's a subjective thing. So
just take it out.
Just take it out. So it's all of these things. And if you've got someone to talk to about it, discuss it, it's just so much easier. And it's other. I picked up something else further on. So this is how you do it. And now number 9. You got numbers on yours? No. All right. So
tell me the word that you've highlighted.
Like this, other mergles. It probably means I want you in that line to perhaps suggest to change what you've got to other mergles. This implies limp. This says illo. So it just means illustration. And if I've this one, she wished every night she could be just like them, frolicking out of the lily stems and mangrove roots, glinting in the sun, playing tiggy. Well, you can probably see that there's a whole pile of illustration stuff in there. Yeah. And it's like you don't have to say that they're out there on the mangroves and that there was glinting in the sun and they were playing tiggy. That can all go in the yellows, because it's actually not moving the story along at all. It's just describing the setting, which is lovely. And there are some lovely ways of saying things, but you don't have to. And in fact, for children that will think, oh yeah, righto, and they might lose their focus. So beautiful. If you're going to self-publish, then and you get to talk to your illustrator, then wonderful to be able to say, look, this is how I would see this myself. But you don't tell the illustrator what to do either. You sort of suggest and talk and cajole and stuff, because they have great ideas themselves. And there's a whole pile of things around this section where I've said illustration, illustration, illustration.
Mhm.
And this one here, I've said that's a filler word. So there's obviously a word in here that is
Just.
just
The word just, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Doesn't-
what
don't need to be there. It doesn't need to be there. It's
what
just
other examples of filler words do you know that you can tell us?
a whole pile of it. Anything,
Mary?
anything that like
Mary?
pronouns and conjunctions and things like that. It's anything that leads you into something. Like the way I have, and I heard myself on YouTube talking
Bless you.
on the last one, and I kept saying so, and I didn't know.
Kaya Clary's just commented
It's just-
too. So
It's a
yes.
it's you will see them as does that really need to be there? Does that change the sentence, or is it just filling up space? And if it's
And
filling
those words like feel or saw or heard.
or seems, don't
Mm.
use it seemed like. Just go straight to the chase. And
Mm.
no, see, it seemed like the sun. It seemed like I don't know, I can't think of it now, but just don't use seemed. That's a filler word, and it's weak, actually, quite weak. Moving, I won't go through all of this.
Yeah, but you did make a comment when we were talking before. I thought would be really nice to share with people about that idea of making something repetitive, like having the repetition. And I think that was on that but it did not help line.
Yes, I think have I written it down there?
I'm not sure. It just came up in our discussion before, and I thought that would be very helpful for people to know to look for those opportunities where you could have a key phrase
Yeah.
repeating.
Yes, well, what Chris did further on, she did this and she did this and she tried to do that. That's a form of rule of three, because they say that 3 is the number that children remember most. It's actually the number that everyone remembers most. So if you have a running group of things, do it in 3s. She did this, she did this, she did this. And even in one of my little books, I just go down, down, down. So it's the rhythm of the story. And as you write, you will find that you're developing your own voice. You won't notice that until you've written a couple of stories, but you think, oh, I'm getting something in these stories sounds like me. You know what I mean? And
Excuse me, miss. We've got a question. It says, would you need illustrator notes at all? Do we need to put illustrator notes in?
where are you? Where are you?
So it's a question somebody sent through the chat room, and they said, do we need an illustrator note for any part? And I suppose what we're trying to do today is pick out what the illustrator sections are. And when I said put it in as an illustrator note, that was for me because I'm independently publishing my book at the moment. But if you were traditionally published, this is what I've been told and understand, is that you don't put any illustration notes in for a traditionally published book.
Unless unless it's something that's the story doesn't make sense without knowing that that's going to be there. And it's not a detailed illustration note, it's just a note saying that person's not in the scene now. If you don't say they've disappeared, but they've disappeared, you might have to actually put that. But other than that, yeah, you would. I've heard also that you don't do that.
Sorry for interrupting.
Sorry.
No.
If you want, and sometimes you will have to put some description in, because if you something say that come across a bog and it stinks, you can't show that. So, but you can show in Australia, woo, or few, which is onomatopoeia, or you can say it had a bad smell, or you can say, and you can say emotions. If you want to introduce a new terminology, a new word that you know is outside the range of a young child's experience, then you certainly would use that, but it would have to be in the context of the story, and the context of the story would need to explain, as I did in Sylvia's itch. I wanted to use the word allergy, but I had the whole context sort of the word wrapped around and just sort of describe. She said, because this possum was itchy in this book, and it could be an allergy. So then she goes on to say, so she stopped eating this and she stopped eating that, which doesn't say what allergy is, but it gives the idea of it.
Mhm.
At the literary, you need to look at the literary devices to give your story the rhythm. And Chris has used these now and again, but you don't have to use them all. And then we got to the stage, so we have to stop soon so you other guys get a chance. But this is just showing you how I picked up on little things that Chris had missed. But this is getting down to fine detail now.
Would you like me to go back to the PowerPoint, Robin?
I think, was there anything, if there was something else I particularly want to say?
Victoria in the chat room actually also said, all little kids have their fingers right in front of them, so they would instantly know how big she is if we left the word finger in.
Okay.
So, which is a really good thought as well. And somebody else, and I can't remember where it is, but somebody else said, KR Clary said, or a shrimp, which is more Aussie, I suppose. Aussie slang, shrimp on the barbie instead of a prawn.
I think we say prawn. Don't Americans say shrimp?
Oh, that
I think they just changed it.
Yeah.
They changed it in the ad to suit American tourists. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I can't say that I would call it shrimp.
Just research that. So it's up to you. My suggestion isn't coming from the heavens. It's just what I picked up immediately.
Mhm.
Can I make a little comment?
Yeah.
I was thinking index finger. Some kids may not know where the index finger is, so I was thinking about your little finger, and then they can all wiggle their little finger.
Oh, your pinky.
Oh, yeah. Pinky.
Yeah, your little finger. And then they can all wiggle it and interact.
The other thing is the size of your little finger is actually.
Yeah, exactly.
The author talking to you, which is going into a different.
That's what I thought when I put the word "you're" there.
Because you're actually almost going into you're the author talking to the reader, and you're stepping outside it. Everything else is third is in
it's her story. It's the mermaid story.
That's almost second case. So you would be cautious of it for that reason too.
It's tricky as well. It's tricky because prawns from the sea are like massive, and then
some are massive
in the billabongs, which are really small. So you've also got big difference of.
And we have to remember she's tiny as well.
Yeah. So if you've got a kid that eats a lot of king prawns, then they're going to go, wow. Okay.
I guess at the end of the day, though, does it really matter if one child thinks your mermaid's is big and another? I mean, same with the fingers. Like their fingers,
the fingers probably a good one.
Does it matter if they picture it smaller than it actually is? So
the pictures
it probably
anyway.
Doesn't matter.
You'll see the pictures because
that's true.
Everything's comparatively in the picture. There's got bigger things, and she'll see the difference.
Authors, we always forget about the pictures.
Yeah, we mustn't forget the pictures. They're really, really important. So there are some other, I thought, rather good comments, but we won't go through them all. And Chris,
why don't you pick out the best ones that you want to talk to us about that you think?
Oh gosh,
we also do have other people to share, so we might want to wind up.
That's fair enough. Yeah,
you get the idea. Guildford method, so that you get that overview, and you can just say, all right, didn't understand, and sometimes you don't. I've read stories and I thought, what the heck was that about? So that's a really deep problem. And okay, so there we go. So I've shown you the Milford method and some line editing and how and why you can do it, and that you can do it on your character, you can do it on your problem, you can do it on the setting, you can do it on any of the literary devices that we used, you can do it whether it emotionally caught you or not, and I think that is so important. It's the emotional content for young children, and if it didn't and you were bored, Well, it needs some work. It needs some work. Did someone say something? No, the other thing was, and I've said this to someone that I'm doing a review for in the Queensland Writer Centre, said your story is more like a conversation. And if you moved this to the top, you'll have a context for where the story started. And that also creates the problem immediately. And if you could finish your story back once the child has resolved the story, or not an adult, never solves the problems. If you can go back to the beginning to where the problem started, it's lovely cyclic sort of movement to it. So I'm sorry, I'm so focused on doing all this, I'm missing the chat. So if you pick the chats up.
I was just asking if anyone was also an illustrator, because I'm jealous if they are. And we have that Lorraine is not an illustrator, however, her daughter is an artist, and she's going to have her daughter illustrate for her, and I think that's beautiful.
I do, and I need a new illustrator too.
We all do. Pass out some cards, Lorraine.
Yeah, and my other daughter's a primary school teacher. She's training to be a primary school teacher. So she was giving me some pointers, because she reads them out, so she can also really plug the reading out section as well of the whole process.
Yeah.
Well, yes, because I'm a teacher, my books all have teacher notes that are free on my website to download, which is another aspect of it, but that's the learning aspect. So it's your turn next. So is there someone here who would like to read their story?
Is your website just robinadolphs.com?
There are two, robinadolphs.com or butternutbooks.com.
And if there's anyone who would like to put theirs on the screen, as I say, it's all optional, but if you would like to, I can make it so you can share your screen if you want to. Have we got anyone brave enough to share maybe the first page of their draft?
We're not going to, this is to give you some direction and to give you a bit of a chance to practice, and we are certainly not passing judgment. We've all been there, and it's just, I wish I'd done this with somebody when I was first starting, rather than end up sitting there with a group of 14 people slamming my writing, and realizing later that I was reading my picture book to a bunch of adult writers who knew nothing about picture books. So it's you need to be with your own like minds, but
so maybe we talk a little bit about, I know this is going off script now, but possibly, Robin, you want to talk a little bit about critique groups, because most of us here, I know, have belonged to critique groups, and sometimes that can work really well and be really helpful. And sometimes it can be a little bit detrimental when you have a group of people who all don't know how to write a picture book, trying to help each other write a picture book. Not detrimental so much, but you have to learn what to listen to and what to as you said before, take as opinions. So did you want to talk about what is helpful to use in critique groups and what is not?
I started a critique group down in Logan, and it was so exciting. And when you're first starting off and you write this story and you think it's just so wonderful, and some of those things, some of my stories are some of those stories that I actually read out. Now, what I didn't know at the time was that most of the people at this critique group didn't know what they were doing, and neither did I. But it didn't matter. Everyone was trying to get some message out. So someone was trying to write something, and whether it was a memory or whether it was something that you just like, I really want to talk about my dog, I really want to do this. It's just, as I said last time, has to be universally appealing. So if you're writing about your dog, you have to make it not your dog, you have to make it a dog that everybody loves. Does that make sense? Anyway, that was a good experience to get started. It didn't matter, and it doesn't matter if it's a group. There'll always be people who are more experienced than you, and there'll always be people who are less. I like working with people who are less experienced because I've never forgotten how I got my start and where I started from. And I also like to do the opposite. That's why in Rainforest Retreat, step out of my comfort zone and write adult stuff. And everyone's kind enough to say they're fine. But it's a matter of just being tenacious. Is there anyone who's written a story? So critique groups, just going back to that question, I think they're really vital, quite frankly. Not as that you mightn't even call it a critique group, but just a coffee group. You go and go and take your picture and talk about it. And someone says, oh, I can just really see this happening here. Remembering that Milford thing of staying positive, saying, oh, I really can't get a picture of that kid. You can say, well, the pictures will show it, but you want to feel the child inside. You want to feel if the child wants something and it's something that their mother is ill or something, and they're not allowed to go and visit her in hospital. I'm making this up. You have to feel the agony of that child a little bit. So that's really, really important. And these are the things because if you're writing something personal, it's personal to you and you will feel it, but it may not be personal to everybody else. So the trick is making it personal. So
did you have any examples of when you're in a critique group that something bad had happened? So somebody said, not bad, somebody said something that you didn't agree with, and then later on went, oh, maybe that's true.
Yes.
You know, and then found out, no, it wasn't right. Because that's happened to me. I've gone in a circle before where I've written something and then I've went, this is great. I had somebody tell me it was wrong, changed the whole thing. And then I had my editor come in and say, no, you need to go back to how it was. So when do you know and how do you know?
That's why the critique groups are important. And that's why doing maybe some workshops are good. If 5 or 6 people say the same thing, maybe that's worth thinking about. Because if 5 people have said the same thing, there must be something in it. But if one person says, I don't like those names, well, that's not critiquing.
Even enough, what I found is even if it's a well-renowned writer or because sometimes people don't get where your story is coming from either, and it becomes their story. So I think you need to look at that too, which is important. I actually gave up writing because of what somebody said to me. It was probably my first ever critique. I gave up writing for about 3 months. Yeah,
it wasn't my first critique, but I gave up writing for quite a long time after somebody really crushed me.
It does crush. It does crush.
But you can't not say the bad stuff.
Yeah, but it's the way they said it.
It was exactly. Me too. Me too.
Because
it was very inappropriate.
I guess some people are not good at critiquing, and that's where it can be detrimental. So we need to learn to filter and say, well, that them delivering that the wrong way is not actually on you. That's their problem to deal with. And they need to go and deal with that. So we can't let that affect our life and how we decide to go forward.
I agree.
But,
I agree.
Now look, guys, if you get stuck, Robin, I have something I can put up that's a very rough draft. However, I would rather, because I can access Robin anytime, I would rather see somebody else share something today. But if we're stuck for an example, I do have one as a backup.
Don't be shy.
So giving you guys, Lorraine, you want to share something?
I can pop something up now. I'm coming from the point of, you know me, I write adult stuff, and also I had the question of, well, do kids' books have to be, the main character? Do they have to be a child or can they be an adult? That's my first question, because mine is about a woman on a farm, so it's got farm animals in it and stuff like that. But that was my first question.
First question is that in a picture book, the adult's never the main person.
Okay.
So children don't really want to read about adults.
Hey, so that's my first mistake then, isn't it?
Mm.
Although
Yeah.
you see,
However, it doesn't matter because you
Okay.
can change that.
I can change it. Yeah. No, I've just thought of a way of changing it, but I'm just like,
Yeah. Now,
But
Lorraine,
Isabel-
if you would like to share something on your screen, you
Yeah.
have access now, and what you would do, I'll just talk you through the steps just in case. Down the bottom of your screen, there is a button that says share screen. It might be lit up green, it might not
Yep,
be.
it is.
And if you click on it, you will see all your screens. We don't see that until you choose one. We only see what you choose to share. And just to give you a heads up, this is not about pulling apart your story or anything like this. What we appreciate what you're doing now, because this is going to help other people who are very nervous and worried about this see what the process is of, and nobody expects this story to be perfect yet. I mean, maybe it is, because maybe it's only me
No, it's
who
not.
writes
Nowhere
really
near
crap
perfect.
first drafts. That's okay. But
This is draft
but
one,
yeah,
not up to
this
draft
yeah.
200 yet.
So
No.
there is no giving up after this. There is only us helping other
Okay.
people see how we might pull it apart and how we might
There we go.
talk about it. And we'll all be mindful to make sure that we try to deliver that in a correct way. Maybe Robin can let us know what is the correct way to deliver this feedback. And obviously that Milford method looks very good.
The Milford method, say, forget the first one. Goes, if you don't need to do that straight away, say, I really love the way you did that. I
Awesome.
that was strong. That was,
Yeah.
And I had a really good laugh when I got to that spot, or it made me remember something. Just start with something positive.
I'm going to interject and also say thank you, Lorraine, because now you've opened. We have another person who will also share after Lorraine. So it's always you just have to be that first person. That's all.
Yeah. And we're not passing judgment. We're saying, okay, here's my manuscript. How can I make it better? How did it touch you? It's like, and it's your manuscript. We're not going to splash blood on it or anything, you know. So what would you like to do? Read it or?
I hate reading.
That's okay. Do you want me just to read the opening couple of scenes?
Charmaine,
we'll talk about that.
Thank you.
That's all right. So here we go. This is the opening scene of, I'm already very interested in the title, which is 48 Tomato Plants. I already want to buy this book. I haven't even read anything yet. I think kids with like things that are like, you know, gardening and things like that, and plants and vegetables and that, it's great to get kids to really think about these things, because a lot of the times when we're in the suburbs, we don't actually get to experience these things. So here we go. Ava has fed her beloved animals and filled troughs. Sorry, my glasses are a bit foggy today. Troughs, filled troughs. Pineapple cake is baking and pineapple jam is cooling. Ava loves to be busy in her happy place home. Nate's ute heads up the driveway. The engine growls as tires bounce into potholes and over lumps. He has been to the farmers' markets in town. Nate is Ava's light, her beam of sunshine. He will do and try anything. This sometimes frazzles Ava's nerves, but she loves him for it. Now, did we want to discuss that opening before I move on? Or
I've got some, so same as mine. Ava has fed her beloved animals and filled troughs. And I think that would be an illo. Same with pineapple cake is baking and pineapple jam is cooling. That's an illo as well. It should probably start with the next line. Ava loves to be busy in her happy place at home. I think that should be your first line. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I think the rest of that would be in the picture beside it or around it.
I've already also getting this picture in my head, and this is just a suggestion alternative, because I know we're just discussing the age of the character. If this is a story you would like to tell through these, could this be Grandma Ava and Grandpa Nate? And so our protagonist is actually the child that's there at the time, and then you would still get that relationship between the two, and then find a way to interject the child into the story. Robin, would that work? I'm asking Robin because you're getting advice from somebody who's not knowledgeable. But Robin is.
Well, it slants on things, and
Yep.
what I'm seeing is also I'm probably seeing obviously a farm, and for some reason or other,
Mm.
grandma and grandpa always come to mind with a farm. God knows why, but it could be that Ava is the child
That's what I thought.
at her grandmother and grandparents home, and she has jobs to do.
Mm.
So Ava loved visiting grandma, or she loved helping out on grandma and grandpa's farm, something like that. These are suggestions.
Mm.
She helped. She had fed now beloved animals. That's lovely. You don't have to say beloved, because you can have it with her sort of an arm, or putting a bow around its neck, or holding it, or but it depends how you start it, because it's a time zone thing, isn't it?
Mm.
But I would certainly agree that it's introducing the big picture first, and then the jobs later on. But you could have a grandparent's farm, or she could live with her parents on the farm.
Mhm.
But it would seem to me that she would be more inclined to want to do those jobs if she was just visiting.
Mm.
True.
Mm.
But that's just a suggestion, and I think it's lovely because it also gives you the subtext of relationships between grandparents and grandchildren.
True.
So that's just sort of mine. So we have so you've structured it, so you've introduced your characters, and there'll be some gorgeous illustrations in there with grandma and grandpa, and you can see them. I can see them, and maybe grandpa's still out milking the cows or whatever he does, and but
Well, no, he's getting back from the market with too many
with his
plants.
Okay. So this is really tiny on my screen. So that will be a lovely setting. Ava would be a lovely little character. You could fill the character out and decide. So she loved it, but there's going to have to be a problem. So the setting, what have you got?
Well, would you like me to read on a little bit
Yeah,
more?
read the next one out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll read the next one because we maybe have not got to that problem yet. We've set the scene.
Okay.
So I've got to start with, I've got introduce characters, and I've got introduce the setting. So because I've broken those two up.
Yeah. And you might find in a picture you don't need to so much introduce the setting.
No. And
But,
this is something
yeah.
I don't know about. So it's just
Got to write it down so that you can get in your head.
Yeah.
You can always take it out again.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've culled it back to this. So, and now I think that I can actually do a picture book out of it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
Picture books are wonderful because you can say settings, basically, you can, unless it's something very special and it's smells or feelings, you can stick it in the picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll read through the next two sections in one go. So we get that
I think
setting,
so,
and then we
because
get the problem.
that'll introduce a problem as well.
Yeah. Ava moves. She slips on her boots and is met by 2 dogs, 5 geese, and 3 goats. Oh boy, what are you doing here? She asks the goats. Ava spots stalks where flowers used to be. We used to have a goat, so I get that. I will deal with you. I will deal with you in a minute. Underfoot, the grass is crunchy, the ground is dusty, the whole property is dry, including the dam. Ava has not seen anything like it before. Nate opens the door and grabs Ava's hand, tugging her towards the tray of the ute. Ava has a sense of excitement and fear all in one. What has he brought home today? Ava stares with disbelief. 48 tomato plants, he explains. But why? Ava asks. A bargain, he answers. This drought is like no other. I'm sure they won't survive. Don't worry, we have plenty of bore water, Nate says. Ava hopes Nate is right.
Okay, so you can see it all coming together now, can't you? I like Grandpa already.
Yeah,
I
I like the rom-com happening.
That's actually putting a bit of humour into it, isn't it? Kids love humour, and you're also starting to introduce things like that. There's probably a lot of setting. I mean, as soon as you said goats, we had goats once, and I ate one shoe of every pair we had. So they're very naughty.
Yeah.
I can see, and that's a great line where it says, where flowers used to be. That's funny. I like that. It's, you could almost have Ava feel a little bit of empathy for those goats, and she said, hey, you'll get into trouble if you do that. She said, don't tell anyone. Ooh, that sort of stuff. So it doesn't matter. So to see that word, Ava stares with disbelief, that's an illustration. And it's just a matter of looking at that setting and saying, but some of those lines are really cute in there. So, see that line, underfoot the grass is crunchy? That is so true. You have to leave. You can't leave that for the picture. Can't. Because I've actually walked on crunchy grass. It's horrible.
When it's getting brown and yeah.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. And the whole property, and you can see an illustration of this.
My favorite little couple of words is the engine growls. I love that.
Yeah, but you can see the engine sort of popping and steam and who knows what. So we've got some really good stuff there.
I'm picturing this. I'm picturing the illustrations.
Yeah, it's so visual, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many words have you got for it at the moment? Do you know?
It's nearly on 1,000.
Yeah, so I can see though. I think you'll get this to under 500 easy because you've got the illustration notes.
Yeah, a lot of it's illustration. Yeah,
there's some lines like this drought is like no other. I'm sure they won't survive. Even if she said something like, but the drought, they won't survive. You know, things like that. Short. There's just little bits where you'll be able to
cut out all that other stuff. That's kind of what you call filler.
Yeah.
So
I can see you will easily get this to a good size for a picture.
Yeah, they don't need to know that in the context of this story. It's about the tomato plants dying. That's the problem I'm getting. That they don't need to know a history lesson about that's drought.
True. Yeah, it's just a bad drought, and we know that droughts are bad. Yeah.
But what you can do, if you're not sure about some of them, you can highlight them, put them in red or something, leave them in there.
Yeah.
And do I need this or don't I? Take it out, put it back in.
Yeah.
You know, cut it, then put it back in, and say, yeah, I do, I don't.
But
ask yourself, do what I need? Does this need to be here? Can it be shown in the future? That's basically the main question. Getting your done.
Does it need to be there? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
I think the drought is like no other. I'm sure they won't survive. I like that line.
All you've got to do is have someone say, there's no water, but the drought, there's no water, it's going to die.
It could be a shorter. And sometimes when you do shorten a sentence, it actually makes it emotionally stronger too. Sharper. You know, because you're just emphasizing those words, drought, survive, you know. You just,
I mean, there's some good room there for don't forget you can leave a lot of emotion in the pictures too, but if dialogue is really powerful, and that section there shows a lot. But
well, I'm wondering, do you want, like Lorraine, do you want to take that information and mull on that, and should we look at another opening story?
No, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
But really if you'd like us, I'm quite happy to have a read of that one.
Yeah, me too.
Go through it for you afterwards if you'd like. It's totally up to you. And again, know that my experience is not Robin's, so you can take or leave what I say.
Yeah, I'm happy to read them too.
There you go.
That's lovely. Fantastic. Thank you.
If you don't mind, line it, it's across it.
Yeah. Way Robin's a bit more than ours, but I love the idea, and I would love to see how this comes to fruition. What we might do now, so Lorraine, if you want to click on the button that says stop sharing, we might get, okay, Clary, you still keen to share the opening of yours?
Look, just before you start, Lorraine, that that was terrific, and thank you.
Oh,
And
thank
Yeah.
you.
don't
I'm
stop.
glad you were brave. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
stop.
good on you.
Don't stop. Don't stop. Right?
Thank you.
That's a great story beginning. I tell you, I want to listen to the rest of it.
Yeah. And will this be your daughter's first attempt at illustrating a picture book?
Yes.
Yeah. So later I'll also send you a couple of links. I've watched a few YouTube, and she may have found them already, YouTube videos where some illustrators have taken you through things to think about when you're illustrating a picture book, which
Oh, brilliant. Thank
may
you.
be quite helpful.
So next time
Yeah.
we're going to storyboard this so that we can see what the illustrations
Mm.
are. So we have to
Yes.
that 1,000 thing down to 500.
Mm.
Cool.
And
Fantastic.
my story was the same as yours, Lorraine. Mine was a chapter book that I pulled down into a picture book, and it was tough.
It was a chapter book actually, because I'm an adult, as Charmaine knows, YA, and then I wrote what was a chapter book, and it's gone down to that so far.
It's
So yeah,
tough.
a lot of words have gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Kaya, Clary, did you want to share your screen and unmute yourself to share your story with us?
Yes, just trying to open the share the screen option so
Yeah.
that I find the correct document.
She sounds like me.
That's okay. And
Well-
if let me know if it's not letting you do that. I think I've set it up to do that. Great.
Okay, can you see spick and span?
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Great title again. Love me some alliteration.
I have done quite a few edits, and I've already done the illustrations, taking from the text, put it into a note rather than me saying it. So all the italics you see were text that I've changed into illustration notes. Okay, spick and span. Spick was hanging out at the local tool shed. It was the most electric place to be. Hugh the hammer was headbanging while Diane the drill was dancing. Tani the tape measure was rolling around, and Smudge the shovel was just mucking about as usual. The rain on the roof was creating its own beat. Then bang, crackle, crash, fizzle. The lights went out and the music stopped. The tool shed came to a grinding halt. Hooray! They all shouted, a puddle party! Smudge had a screw loose and was the first one to bolt out. Hugh did a running start before a long slide. Diane didn't dare go out into, as the rain may fry her wires. Of course, Tani went, as after all, that's how she got her name. Spick was about to leap when he heard his father roar. Sorry, touch screen.
It's okay. Did we want to go right through, Robin, or do you want to start editing?
Just a little bit more.
Okay.
Don't you dare, Spruce hollered. You need to be spick and span for the awards ceremony. Spick grizzled and shrunk back under the awning. His family were finalists in the town's cleanest crew awards. His mother, Pristine, was so proud. Spick thought it was the most embarrassing thing ever. Come in, his friends encouraged. Don't be a tool, Diane dismissed. Spick wanted nothing more than to play in the puddles.
All right, we can stop probably there, hey?
Yep, and have a look. So do
we
you want to
can-
scroll back up to the start?
Yep.
First of all, can I just say, I've actually known, like how Aussie guys like to have nicknames. I've known a guy named Spick, and I've known a guy named Smudge. So I really like those names.
Now, all right. I liked the most electric place to be. That was good. I just got a little confused. Is Spick a person?
They're tools. So I've personified different tools. So as we go through, you'll find Spick as a spanner. And then we've got other tools at the tool shed as well.
All right. So who is the family?
Spick and the Spanner family. So Spick is the son of Christine and where's my Spruce?
Oh no. Are you still looking for it?
Both Bruce and Christine are the parents of Spick.
Okay, all right. Can you go back up to the top again?
That is the top.
So, all right. What I believe is that it's very hard for children to associate themselves with, emotionally engage with inanimate objects. Now, but this is funny. So, it could work. But you know what I mean? They can engage with people and they can engage with animals because of that. They're alive. So I was told that you shouldn't really write stories with having an inanimate objects as your main character. Now, that doesn't mean you can't break the rules, because I like rule breakers. So, and I would say that just threw me a bit, because I wasn't expecting an inanimate object to be the main character. But it's like, okay, it's very clever, I have to say. Now, all right, now having said that, now look at Hugh the Hammer was headbanging while Diane the Drill was dancing. How do you just show that in a picture? Can you? I don't know that you can you? Because what you're doing is actually...
You could, if you showed a motion, you know, so motion of the hammer coming down and then back up, see how like it's like an arc.
You don't know it's Hugh then, do you?
True. No, you'd have to say it, wouldn't you?
And Diane, because I can see,
Yeah,
I can see
no,
them
true.
dancing. I can see them dancing and headbanging like, oh. But
You wouldn't know who was who. No.
if you just leave it in the pictures, you don't get their names. Is it important to get their names?
Yes, they do come through the rest of the story with their different interactions with the main character with peer pressure.
All right. Okay.
Where does with Spick, because I got carried away with all the characters there and I was just like having a giggle. Whereabouts does Spick's problem come in?
In the next couple of pages that we didn't quite get to.
Okay, is that maybe leaving it a bit far? Like what page would you say it comes in on?
I would say that your main character, your problem is setting, need to be introduced in the first 2 to 3 pages.
So the next page that we didn't quite get to, that's
So
where it
12,
happened.
yeah.
Yeah,
See,
probably.
I don't have a problem with the inanimate objects, but I, like you say, Robin, often it is a problem. However, there have been some people do it really well, like the day the crayons went on strike and stuff like that. So that was quite fun. My only concern is with your story arc, you might want to get that problem up a lot sooner. So seeing if you can have that happen a bit sooner, because when we read our story, otherwise it's just a lot of, like, it's lovely stuff and it sounds great, but then otherwise it's a lot of just stuff happening until we actually get to, well, what is this story about? Because it's not just about tools, it's about Spick having a problem.
Yeah.
So we want to get to that. So maybe seeing if you can reorder. Again, I should let Robin talk because I'm not the expert in this area.
No, you're doing really well.
Sorry.
Saying exactly what I was
That's
saying.
my feedback.
You would, if you get down to that part where you've mentioned his problem and you try drag it up to the top, see how it works. Now all these secondary characters are there, and but they're not the problem. So as Charmaine said, somehow the problem has to come before the others. Maybe you just have to rearrange how is it important? It's not really that important to say that's what they're doing right now. What we need to do is get that problem up there. How can you see yourself doing that?
Showing their personality to lead into this next part, so that when Diane says you're nuts, but the boys cheer that you totally nailed it, but then Spick actually slipped and then had the thud, and then the next character teases them about it. So they've all got those different dabblings of personality to lead into the problem. Then Spick has to work out whether he listens to his friends or his family.
Mm.
Yeah, I still think you need to get your problem up first.
Would vignettes help to condense some of those, having 3 of the things happening on each page? Would that help to condense the part before the problem, maybe? And this is just suggestion and playing around with, obviously.
Oh yeah, we're just
you know
trying
your
to help
story
you.
better than we do.
Oh God, no, we're just
Yeah.
It's yeah. The thing is, introducing. We know about Spick. We know about the tool shed. We know it's electric, but we don't know what the problem is, and that really should be up there with the other 2. And the way the other ones go, and the way they the way how you've got them doing this and doing that. Well, if he slipped, maybe you can somehow show those other characters reacting to the way he's slipping by doing what they're doing. Does that make sense?
So the original dancing was inside the tool shed until the power outage, then they ran outside into the rain.
Yeah.
So it was a change of setting.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's getting that problem up front so that everyone knows, oh, something's going to happen.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's very clever, I have to say, that the way you totally nailed it, and you're nuts.
Yeah.
And
I love their little
children
scenes.
may not get that because they may not have much knowledge about nuts and spanners and tools. However, your pictures will show that.
Did put some of those ideas and phrases in to also amuse the adults who might have a giggle as they're reading it to their little ones, and then can have a point of conversation around the double meanings of some words as well. Would you like me to continue reading so you've got more of an idea, or would you like me to send it privately later?
No, I think I think the main thing happening here is that the problem just needs to come up higher.
Yeah. Yeah, but certainly we're all happy to have a look at it. But yeah, I think that you've got great characters too, and I think it's just a matter of just playing around with it and moving things and seeing what you like trying it and sitting back and seeing what feels right for you, because it has to be your authentic voice. So yeah, just playing a bit. But yeah, definitely send it through though, and we'll have a look and make suggestions. But at the end of the day, obviously it has to be what you want it to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
But if you want to take it further, it's a matter of getting a few things in place. If you remember that parents are going to have a giggle at this, but it's a children's book, and what you can do in the back of the book is do a little glossary thing that says what a nut is, you could do that too, or did you find there's something or others, and you could play around with it so that your pictures are going to be very important. Just get that problem up front. That's it.
Yeah, we have a few comments. We have Emma's also happy to share the opening of her story. We also have Victoria suggested, asked, oh, could we send her some illustration links as well? Absolutely, guys. Yes, I'll make sure I send that link to those YouTube ones that I have found on illustrating. And Emma has said she loves the alliteration, Clary, through your story there. So that's great. And a question about what is the word count of your story here?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
It's about 620 at the moment. It was about 750, and when I reread it, I saw what could be an illustration.
Yeah.
So in the page that's showing at the moment, originally it read, "Oh, you're nuts," Diane said, as Spick was backing up to take a run. And then I thought, well, that last part can be a straight illustration. And then in the line, "Oh, you totally nailed it," the boys cheered as he stuck the landing. And then I thought, well, that last bit doesn't have to be a tell, that can be an illustration. So I put that into the illustration notes.
So you're not counting the italicized words in that word count, are you?
Correct.
Okay.
Could you pop up to the beginning for me just for a sec? I'm just wondering if you, and could you just go down so I can see page 6, 7 as well? Yep. I'm just wondering if you could have your opening page talking about how all the tools were having a bit of a, I don't know, party thing happening in the shed, and have the rain and the roof stuff happening in that opening. And then the next scene is Spick's going to do something crazy. Then we introduce Spick specifically, like it's all the tools. Here's Spick. He's going to do something crazy. And then that way you could get to his bit. But that's just, again, play with it and see what you like. What we might do is, if everyone's okay with this, might go over time a little bit and have another look at another opening, because I think it's really helpful to see what different people are doing. But also, Clara, if you wanted to send that through to Robin, we've got her email in the chat. If you just go through and have a look at that, so you can send that through, and you're welcome to send it to us as well. So,
you only live once, so I'm trying the whole YOLO thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're doing great, and thank you for being brave and sharing with us. Like I say, it's not just for what it does for your story, but it really helps other people to be able to see how we do this. And
it's actually very, it's, you worked on this one, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's obvious, and your use of dialogue's really good.
Thank you. And it was interesting, Rob, that you mentioned about the characters and about the animals and the inanimate. This actually sparked from another writing workshop I went to, where the author put up a whole different range of stimulus options. Yeah. And this was writing a different style to what I would normally do. So that was interesting to see a different author's opinion on the characterization, because I took the inspiration from one author's writing workshop, and now I'm getting feedback from another author. So I'm getting different sides.
That's right. Well, you have to make the decision. And why I say that is that I set up my own publishing company, Button Up Books, and working with publishers is where my information comes about what actually sell, and what people and children like to read about. So it's that knowledge, and why I say that is not just an opinion. It's actually come from data coming from places like the Australian Publishers Association.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Clary. Now we are going to go into a bit of bonus time now. Let's hear from Emma. Emma, if you would like to share your screen, feel free to. Now, if you go to the bottom of the screen, you haven't done this before, you click on the little button that says share screen, and it should give you the option. As I said, we don't see your screen until you share it, so you choose what you share. I just say that in case people are worried, oh, I had something open I didn't want them to see.
All right.
That's great. And just before you start, can I get you just to zoom in a little bit more for those of us who are a little bit harder with our eyesight? It's not quite. That's great. Thank you. That's just for people like me. Now, are you happy to have a read through?
Yes, I can read. I will be honest and say that I have been working on this one for a while. It is a rhyming picture book, and the meat is still not right. So I've got to work on that a bit more. I have had feedback about my ending as well being depressing. So if you have time and you would like to have a listen of the whole story, I'm happy to share my ending, and I'd love some feedback on that too.
It's only 371 words.
Yes, I've tried to condense, because I figure most things should be in the picture. But again, I've broken some rules because it's an inanimate object. So, all right, where shall we go? Delivered to Squiggle Street, number 15. I have come with the fridge, not a dent to be seen. Left alone in suspense, there won't be long to wait. Time to wonder and dream of the fun we'll create. I'm ready and waiting to play and explore with adventurous kids who are eager to soar. Let's imagine and laugh for as long as we can. Where shall we all go? There's no need for a plan. Tucked away in a forest is our deep, dark cave. Chocolate and caramel cupcakes help us to be brave. On walls, children draw mammals and towering green trees, paint their handprints and portraits, and scroll ABCs. Just let me know when you want me to stop.
Okay.
Ah, a rumbling roar grows from the black at the back. A small bear is awake and about to attack. Let's skedaddle and leave the bear's cave far behind. It's now time for adventures of a different kind. New controls and displays are prepared and installed. The vibration funnel grows. Launch is finally called. We whiz through the air, holding our seats nice and tight, off to visit the stars that shine through the night. Blast beyond the Earth's atmosphere. Wow, what a ride. Quick, evade all the meteors. Let's not collide. On re-entry, a parachute slows our descent. A sea landing. Oh, phew, the rocket is unbent. Our first course has been set to search the big wide blue. Valves and cables are tested for the sea dive debut. My skilled ocean adventurers steer us down deep to the great unexplored realm. That's where we'll creep. Thump! A tentacle fumbles to throw the hatch wide. Spin and somersault past the huge squid safe inside. What excitement, what dangers, what treats and delights. Minds abuzz with excitement, so vivid and bright. I have lived a full life of amazement and fun. I've grown tattered and tired. It has been a good run. With drawings all over and sagging soft sides, I no longer keep up. I must leave my young guides. I'm recycling bin bound to be shredded apart. I agree it seems sad, but it's really quite smart. It won't be long before I'm restored to brand new. I'll be ready and waiting for someone like you. That's the end.
Well, congratulations on tackling the poetry angle.
It's hard.
Christine will agree with that, huh?
Well, it's the only story I've written that is in rhyme because it popped into my head like that. So I felt like it needed to be said.
Yep. My story, my rhyme story, which Robin's talking about, she helped me with, took 10 years to get to where it is. It's being illustrated at the moment, but
Yeah.
it's a big, long, if you decide to do rhyme, you need to buckle down.
Yeah.
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 But I
I've done
think this
about
sounds
16
great in
drafts.
I love
Yeah.
the sound of this. I love the rhythm and the story and what I could see in my imagination. It was a beautiful story. Loved it. Loved the idea of an inanimate object
Can you go
having a voice.
beginning?
And Robin does rhyme so well. She's got a book called The Pile Up. And I love reading it, and I read it loud because it gets really exciting, and the kids are having crashes on their bikes, and my grandkids love it. And this is what rhyme does. It just gets you into a rhythm of rhyme.
Rhyme's wonderful, and from what I can see, you haven't used any artificial sort of it's you haven't twisted it or you haven't done anything that just to make things
To
rhyme.
make those rhyming words work. Yeah.
That's great. At first I didn't read it properly, so I didn't realize it was a carton. Was it fridge carton? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why the Milton method's good. Is that this is a story about a fridge? No, it's not. It's a story about a cardboard box the fridge came in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't quite get that.
We will with the illustrations, possibly.
Yeah, I figured the illustrations will show all that, so I didn't want to say anything too obvious.
I agree with Charmaine. I didn't find that I found the ending quite full of hope, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I'm just wondering where the problem is at first.
Yes, I think that's one of my issues. I don't seem to really have a problem. Within each of the little adventures the box and the kids go on, there's perhaps a challenge with the bear or the squid trying to get in, or but I don't really have a problem as such.
No, so it's like number 15. So here we left alone in suspense. They won't be long to wait. Okay. Is it, I mean, I'm an adult now. How much, let's have a look. I reckon pages 4 to 5, that's going to be very, very important that you get the right illustrations for that.
Could the box be worried about having been torn or something like that? Like worried that the adults are going to tear it open and not be used for anything else? Like their life's over and done with or something, and then it's not going to get used for kids at all?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, where you've got that it's there won't be long to wait, instead of having it positive straight away that it's going to be in the games, like Lorraine says, maybe it's just it originally is just a box for a fridge, and now what's it going to do? Now it's nothing, but then and you go into that,
maybe you could have like kids arriving going, we want to play with it or something, you know, we want to use that, and the adults like, what, you know, like, okay, yeah, whatever.
I'm just thinking about children and reading it. It's like everyone loves to play in boxes, but I'm wondering that, so I can't see on this screen how many lines you have on each page. So I would suggest it's not necessary to actually put them on, break them into pages yet, because you haven't had editing. However, I'm wondering, say that left alone in suspense, there won't be long to wait. There's a bit of a change of rhythm there. Come to wonder and dream of the fun we'll create. Do you need those 2 lines? Now, everyone's going to hate me after this.
No, I was thinking I should just perhaps delete them.
But don't have to, but I'm just wondering. Listen, delivered to Squiggle Street, number 15. I have come with a fridge, not a dent to be seen. I'm ready and waiting to play and explore with adventurous kids who are eager to soar.
Yes, I have been thinking about this in the night.
Yeah, you see what I mean? I didn't read those 2. Does it work, or do we need those 2 lines?
Could easily not be there.
You don't have to do it.
Paste those somewhere else just in case you change your mind.
I have saved all my drafts. It's okay.
Yeah.
Put them on the side or down the bottom. That's what I do. I usually end up with the bottom a whole lot of.
And like you said, put them in red.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always keeping the story moving, and you just think about it. You might want to leave it there, but
can I add something?
Go on.
Instead of having those 2 lines, could you have something like dreading a short end, like to a bin, kind of, that would be where the adults would maybe, that could bring in the suspense of the adults possibly chucking him out, but he's really wanting to wait.
I'll tell you why I love that idea too, is because then you start with the bin being the scary thing. You end with the bin, but it's actually the heading somewhere to recycle.
Yeah, it's recycling.
So we are over that fear of the bin now. So I really love that idea, because I love when a story comes back to something at the beginning.
Yeah, actually, that ties well in with the end. Yeah.
Can I just ask in a rhyming question, and like meter, do we have to have all the pages have 4 lines?
No.
Can we have 6s? Can we have 3s? Can we?
Yeah, you can have, and depending on the story within the poem, you can move it on to across pages. So if you've got,
when I wrote it, it looked more like that.
You can move one line, so they say la da da, and like in the pilot, I said, who's that coming? Kids joined the race, can't see his face. So you could take a whole line if it were leading up to a suspense, and stick it on the next side of the page so that people are left hanging. It's still rhyming. It's just on the page. No, you can do that.
The other thing as well I was thinking was rain might cause a problem too. So the box, you could add a complication in later on or within the story of it raining, and worried that it's going to also end up being a short life because of that too, possibly.
I hadn't thought of that.
Thank you.
No worries.
It's good to get
horrible
different
having
ideas, different
Horrible
perspectives.
having to edit rhyming things because it's harder
And it
One thing you
stuffs
change, everything
it up then,
changes.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
can't worry about that, all of that stuff too. But the
Yeah.
same rules apply. You still got to have your
Your stories
you still got to have
important.
your character, and you still got to have your setting, and you still got to have your problem.
Mm.
Basically, in a
Yeah.
picture book, we're talking picture books, and we talk about children. So it's just a matter of tightening it up and make sure you've got all of those stuff in.
Emma, I also think this one would be a great one because so many of the younger kid classes, like up to grade 3, look at reduce, reuse, recycle at school. So this would fit into so many of those units, and the teachers could use it about using things for other purposes.
Yeah, so I'm a prep teacher at the moment, but I was teaching one last year too. So
Message.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's got a long way to go. No, I mean, I think it would go a long way.
thank you.
Yeah, I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so what we might do now, so if you want to stop sharing your screen, I will head back to our PowerPoint. I think there might be a little bit of homework or something. Let's see what Robin has here. Yes.
That was so interesting listening to everybody's. I hope everybody's just got something out of listening to what everybody else has said. And what you've actually been doing, listening, is actually giving some of the editing, using some of the editing street the editing ideas, you've been using them when you've been giving feedback. So it's like you haven't just been listening to a presentation, you've actually been using them. And you may not have even noticed it, but you were all giving feedback. And whether, it's feedback and it's there to be digested. And you can say yes or no. And I've said no a couple of times to feedback. And I'm really happy I did. But at the end of the day, you have to listen and mull it around. Okay, so this is what I says, your homework. Have a first draft, this is what I imagine, with lots of squiggles, crossings out and jots in the margin. You probably also have a lot of wonderful suggestions written down, things that might help your story sing. Was it confronting? Maybe. Do you still feel like a writer? I hope so. Homework is to rewrite your story with or without some of the feedback. Check each sentence, see if it evokes an illustration in your mind, because in session 3, we'll be laying your story out in a storyboard. And congratulations for staying on the train. It's just, I have to say, having had my first picture books published in 2004, and they were only educational texts, so they were very simple, and they were published by Cambridge University Press, and I was walking on the ceiling when they got accepted. But after that, it was such a long, you write things and you send them in and nothing happens. So I got too impatient. I'm too old to wait around for somebody to like my story. So I decided to set up my own independent publishing business, and it's the best thing I ever did, because I've been able to have the experience and probably learned more about editing by doing that than I would have if it had been accepted. If one of my books stories had been accepted by a traditional publisher, I wouldn't have been part of that editing process so much, and I wouldn't have had the chance to engage with the illustrators. So it's been a, well, what is it, 2004, we're getting on there, and it's been wonderful. And but it's rough sometimes. It's rough because sometimes you don't. I want to show you these two books. These two books, this is where I stepped out of my comfort zone and wrote middle grade, and they're two of a trilogy, which is here. But they started that. This is the story that got slammed in the workshop, and I did put it away for 2 or 3 years, and I'd lost confidence. So you mustn't. And if people say things, it's like, okay, well, I heard that, and I heard that, and I heard this, and what do I really think? And have to believe in yourself, I guess, and just write from your heart, and just, if you know children, test it. Best test actually is read that story to some children, read your story to some children, and just with part of your brain, observe them. See if they get fidgety at any stage. Or you can say to them, look, this is going to be a storybook. What I'd like you to do is give me some feedback, because I taught you once how to edit, and they were good. And I did the same thing. I said, something nice to say about the story, and maybe a suggestion. And they thought they were wonderful. Like, well, I really liked your story because the character was nice.
Robin, do you want to let people know a bit of an idea of what the next workshop on picture books is going to be about?
Well, what we're going to do, and this is why it's really important to get, even though this is only going to be the second edit of your picture book, which is probably not enough, we're still going to go through the process of trying to lay it out in a storyboard, which is, I haven't got one handy. Yes, I have. Hold on. Which is something like that. Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's sort of laying it out in a kind of a 34-page book sort of thing, and just seeing how your story is going to fit on the page with the illustrations. That's what we're going to try to do. So I don't know. It would be really, I don't know. Charmaine, how could I get one of these to everybody?
We can do that. We can do that. So we will hopefully have your email. So if everyone can email Robin, because we have put Robin's email up further. Did you want to post it again, Christine, just so that it's fresh at the bottom of the chat for people? If you email Robin to get the notes from today, then we will have your email and we will send out the PDF for the next workshop, which will have those pages there for you so that you can work on those. And then I guess I will also have them handy in case anyone turns up on the day not having booked in previously, and we'll make sure they get them as well.
After today. Oh,
I'm sure they will. So
I'm just looking at the chats here, and I haven't read them before.
Yeah.
Is there anything burning that I missed?
No, I think you did pretty well. Christine brought up about the rhyming is a bit of a rabbit hole to go down, because you should try and understand possibly the iambic pentameter. I'm just starting a rhyming one too, first time, and I'm not a poet, so it is interesting to get in there. Maybe befriend a lot of poets. That would be there's my suggestion. Make sure you circle yourself around poets and they can fix it for you.
You don't have to have fancy complex forms of
Well, just befriend Emma.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, mine is simple, because being an early childhood teacher, I think that gave me a bit of an edge. But I always think that their lives are like that. They're like a golf ball, and when they get to school, it becomes a tennis ball. And the more you sort of go along, and the more you read and so on, the ball expands as their experience expands. So a lot of things they won't understand at the beginning, but it's up to the picture book writer to kind of teach things that don't sound as though they're being taught in a fun way or a sad way. The hardest thing for me to ever do was to write that domestic violence book.
That's a beautiful book. So we're glad you did.
It was asked to write that, and I had to do a lot of research. So if you're going to be writing anything that you're not sure about, you have to go and research it first. And Chris's book that she's just doing now, this one, that's been researched, and there's a lot of information there that children won't be aware of. So what you're doing by
Yeah.
creating picture books is opening worlds.
Hmm.
I'm passionate about picture books.
Well, you've done a great job today, Robin. We're going to wind up this video recording now. However, if anyone wants to hang around to have a chat, that's fine. We'll still be here. So, Robin, thanks so much for doing today. That was amazing. I've gotten a lot out of it again, and I'm really looking forward to delving into my edits now. And I'm also looking forward to reading a few of these stories we heard today. That offer does stand if you guys would like to send those in. We would love to have a look at them. As I said, you may want to value the feedback differently. Obviously, Robin has all the experience in picture book writing, but the rest of us have a bit of a love for picture books. So we might have something helpful, hopefully, to give you. And I really appreciate that. You can find Robin's books online if you check out Robin's website, which is Robin Adolphs. Is it author or just robinadolphs.com? Yes, no, the email has author in it. Yeah, robinadolphs.com. You will find Robin's website there, and also on sites like Amazon and other book sites. You can search for Robin Adolphs and find her books. And I very strongly recommend Brave Denny as one of those books to see, you know, where you can take picture books, that they can be very significant topics as well. And if you're looking for a little bit on rhythm and rhyme, you might want to check out the Pile Up, but there's a lot of great books there. We are running this through Rainforest Writing Retreat. We offer a lot of free workshops like this all year long through Zooms. We do run our yearly retreat. This year's retreat is got a bit of a romance theme and is the 23rd to 25th of June. There are 3 spots left at this stage, and then it will be chock-a-block full. Next year, our writing retreat theme is writing for children and young adults. And we do have some picture book workshops available as well. We have some great authors coming in with, at the moment. We have Samantha Wheeler, we have Rebecca Timmis, and a few other people I keep forgetting. So sorry, whoever I've forgotten already, but we have some great things. Or have you actually writing a picture book manuscript for the picture book workshop in that workshop. And we'll also be networking and doing a lot of things like that. So you might want to check that out. A little bit of a thing about Rainforest Writing Retreat. We are planning an overseas retreat. We tried to do this a couple of years ago, right at the end of 2019. We started planning it, and then we said, okay, maybe not. So now we're back into that. We're planning for 2026 to not be in Australia, but to be in Scotland. So we're planning an overseas writing retreat, and we won't be doing one in 2025. So we're going to make it a 2-year booking so that people can book way ahead and pay it off, and it makes it a lot easier for them. Which means next year, our children's one will be our last one for a couple of years. It'll be 3 years before we have another one in Australia. So make sure you keep an eye out for those bookings. Thanks, guys. I'm going to end the recording now. As I said, you can check out Robin's earlier YouTube on the Rainforest Writing Retreat YouTube channel, which shows that workshop on writing them. If you'd like, you can even go back and revisit it, do the exercises again. And next time we get together, which will be in a month, we'll work out the dates and put that up on Try Booking, and keep an eye on our Facebook page for that. And we will be doing storyboarding, so that'll be great. So thanks a lot, guys.